Thank you very much.
The president wrapping up what we thought would be first just an enumeration of the things that they were going to do that he learned coming out of that National Security Advisory meeting with his team. He talked about financially going after the terrorists, going after the Islamic State and other terror groups as well by cutting off their financial revenue streams and basically freedom just to get that oil money if they can get it at all. He said that he's got his Treasury team working on that. Treasury Secretary Lew obviously hosting this event, he said, and he listed all the other people who were in the room. His Defense Secretary, DHS Secretary, FBI Director James Comey was in the room as well. And then the president took a turn. And if you've been watching, and I've been following social media as we've been watching the president speak, it was a very decided, deliberate tone. He first called on Congress to, particularly the Senate, to put forth his nomination of more than a year ago for an undersecretary at the Treasury Department, although he has a secretary and fully capable capabilities have been to do whatever needs to be done. He feels that this one person would make the difference, and he made the argument for Adam Zuman. And then the tone devolved even further into one that we described here on the couch, and I want to bring it out, Judge, as one of anger over the words radical Islam. And nothing short of a lecture from this president. He did mention the victims, but seemed to save his ire and his venom over that particular issue of why those words don't need to be applied in his estimation. I'm wondering, what is the presumptive nominee of his party, whom he was just endorsed and is going to be joining on the trail? What is she thinking? Because she just dropped that lingo.
You know, it seems that the difference in terms of his delivery was when he got into the political issues, the issue of guns and the issue of, you know, what he considers possible anti-Muslim backlash. If this president had for 1 minute tried to give some empathy to the victims and their families in Orlando, then we would have been cheering him on. This president spent more time about dealing with the fact that it's not a religious war, that we can't paint Muslims with the same brush. And, you know, he starts by saying, which is bizarre, we're going to cut off ISIL's money. Well, where have you been? Of course you're going to cut off ISIL's money. Why do you need one man to do it? I mean, I think the whole thing was an embarrassment, and I say it with all due respect.
He said he's careful what he calls them. I mean, this is the man who called them the JV squad. Are you kidding me? I mean, he talks about not using the phrase radical Islam, that wouldn't change anything. Well, calling them the JV squad didn't help. And when he sat there and he laid out how we're winning, he said ISIS is losing, and there was this long pause. And then he tried to fill in territory where they're losing ground. He said they are cutting salaries. Well, that'll fix them. The terrorists are cutting the payments they're making to all their workers. Are you kidding me?
Well, I'll tell you what's free. When you go online and you radicalize people that way, and then you can spawn these small cells. So we may be hitting them there, but now that the ground has shifted, Ambassador.
Well, let's talk about the speech itself, because this is a failure of presidential leadership. The country has been attacked. 49 innocent people have been killed. The country is in pain. It wants leadership. It wants to hear from the president what we're going to do to prevent this from happening. And instead, we get a lecture from one of the most narcissistic individuals ever to hold that job about what's wrong with the rest of us who don't have the tolerance that he does for people that he thinks are being unfairly criticized. Instead of talking about the enemies of the United States and what he's going to do, he talks about his political enemies. I just think that's unpresidential. I think it shows the president to be a small man. And I think if I were Hillary Clinton now and I seriously wanted to be president, I would say I would break with the president. I would say I reject this idea that somehow we're doing enough. As long as Americans are dying, we are not doing enough.
Ambassador Bolton, he actually went as far just now to say, not once has an advisor told me if we use the term radical Islam, we can really turn this thing around.
That was
snark in a president is not an admirable trait. And criticizing your political opponents in a speech to the nation at a time when they want to know what we're doing to protect ourselves from other attacks like this is beneath the dignity of the office. He's not he has never been qualified to be commander-in-chief. So again, I would say from Hillary Clinton's point of view, if you embrace this presidency for the duration of this campaign, that is the ticket to lose, right there.
Judge, was this an unveiling of something in this president that we had not seen before?
You know, it's what we've talked about, Harris, for so long, and that is, you know, he doesn't seem to have empathy or feelings for Americans and for victims. It's always about, you know, we can't be mean to the other guy. Well, they're killing us, and let's take your guns away. Well, they're cutting our heads off.
They're blowing us up. What about the Boston Marathon? What are we going to do? Outlaw pressure cookers?
And this whole thing is all about almost normalizing this behavior. It's like what he said, Ambassador, at the prayer breakfast. You know, get off your high horse, you Christians. And it's not about Christians and Muslims. It's about radical Muslims. And I don't care if he was born here. The truth is he lives in a family where the father apparently is pro-Taliban. He went to Saudi Arabia twice. He met face-to-face with a Syrian suicide bomber, and he was on the FBI's list. Let's start telling the American people and the victims' families, we're going to protect you, because no one feels safe with that man.
We're coming right back. Stay close.